Hey everybody, what's going on? Um, been feeling bold to share my message here, the things that God showed me, the things I've been very reserved to tell you guys about and make videos on because I don't want to sound nutty, but the world's all nutty anyways. Uh, anyways, there was a guy that commented on my video the other day. Thanks, dude. Shout out to you. Um, I just made this video in a rush and I forgot to look up your account name, but super cool, dude. Thanks. And he recommended this other YouTuber called Change is Coming. Link in the description. Check her stuff out. She's done a way better job explaining what I've been trying to explain. And everything she talks about is exactly what I bumped into, more or less. God allowed me to see these things. It was like a detective story that spanned at least from like 2015 to like 2019, and then I kind of figured out what was going on, and all the 2019 it was nutty as well. And there's a link in the video in the description for a video that I really recommend you guys watching it, because it talks about how there's literally demons in human flesh walking around and you wouldn't even know it. They're all up in they got everything from, I've seen a baker in one of the grocery stores that we used to go shopping in another city. He was one of them. His eye flickered and he was looking directly at me, and it's just their way of saying, hey man, we own this thing, you don't know squat, and everybody's afraid of sounding nutty and crazy if they speak out. This is the Matrix, man, and everybody's Neo, you know. And a lot of them are working in the larger corporate offices. I've been working for some of the biggest corporations in my field in the areas I live, and I've seen people teleport. I've seen people more or less a form of time travel. I've seen them read minds. I've seen them show each other how you can read minds. I've seen normal people being recruited into them. Um, they're highly organized and they're constantly bringing people in, and then you become part of the secret societies, right? And then you do whatever the work of the fallen, right? Trust me, guys. Take a leap of faith with me. The world is not what you think. When you're sitting down and doing your thing and busy with your life, I mean, I don't know. You'll have to ponder and examine your own life to see how they've interacted in your life, if that's the case. Whenever you're wondering about maybe doubling down on your religious path, on your spiritual development, praying a little bit more, taking the family to church or whatever, speaking to family about it, or even just sitting down and reading the Bible yourself, at that very moment, like if you can remember, has there been things in your life or even in your mind that make that not happen, right? Maybe you get a bout of laziness, or maybe you get a thought or a skepticism like, oh, but, what are people going to say? If I go through a full-blown life metanoia, people are going to call me insane, right? So explore those things and really maybe double check on the people that have bumped into your life. Like, you know, don't be surprised if, you know what you think and what you know and what you have kind of pondered, maybe even when you're watching like Netflix or whatever, guess what? That's not all BS. There's a lot into that. But the problem is, what's the big picture? And of course, like most everybody, you would probably dismiss it and say, oh, I should stop thinking about these things, you know? But it's all part of the game plan for them. And you need to, it's so silly how we're just open access to these guys if you don't have God's protection. That's the scary part. I kind of pondered with God too. I wondered, why is it that we're just an open buffet for these guys without you, God? And who would know? Who's going to know these things? Who's going to find out? Because I have a borderline gifted IQ, and I barely figured it out. And plus, I researched a lot in advance. I mean, before I ever became a Christian, somehow God wrote this narration of my life and had me kind of read up on the banking system and blah, 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 and the global power elites. And they always hinted at them as being like pedophiles and Satan worshippers. And I thought, well, that's silly. Why are they religious at all? Don't they all know that the world is just a secular material box full of random energy events, the cosmology of, say, modern day astrophysicists, you know? And man, it's not that at all. It's not that at all. Yeah, and I think there's another link in the description. I'm going to put it in there. There's a guy that basically broke down and basically shows that like the tribulation, it started in like the late 1800s, like 1870s. And when it's like says 7 years, it's not 7 human years. It's a 7 year in a different time scale. A day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like a day for God, right? And that's why the vast majority of people are sleeping through. And I think we're now phasing over to the part of the 7 year tribulation that's actually the nasty part, you know? This has been the decent one, but then think about it. After the 18 something, when, you know, all these crazy genocides and thousands of millions of people being killed by the industrialized communists, Mao Zedong, Stalin, you name it. You know, people say that, oh, it's getting better and whatever, but look at the amount of massacres that's happened since after 1870 as well. Of course, it happened before then too, but industrialized warfare and all that jazz. Look at the Holocaust, look at World War I, World War II. If you check out the video link in the description where the guy basically points out how the Bible is basically telling you, if you look at the clues, that it all started happening in the 1870s. And worshiping the mark of the beast is a little bit more nuanced than you can imagine, because if you're part of the world, it says in the Bible, you're already worshiping the beast, whether you know it or not. And all these things, whether it be the COVID vaccine, you take into these things, you go into it, whether you're always indulging in what the world has to give you, watching Netflix, binge watching, never praying, always throwing your support for your local sports team, representing brands, whether it's your favorite sport brand or whatever, all these things, you're giving away your energy to another system, and it's the fallen system, and that's you, whether you know it or not. Some people know it full well, but vast majority probably don't, and that's part of worshiping the beast. Jesus says you have to be willing to throw everything away. If you have anything attached to this world, then you know you don't love him, right? That he's like that, man. It's totally, there is no easy walk in this path. And people abuse that teaching so hardcore, like, oh, once forgiven, always forgiven, go about doing what you want. You don't need to even think about it. Just sort of like brush your teeth once in a while and pray before you sleep. And Jesus is such a bountiful, gracious God. That is baloney. That's dangerous teaching, you know? Anyways, check out the videos in the description. Go subscribe to Change is Coming. She's totally gifted. I believe she's one of the 144,000. It's on, seriously. Go subscribe to her and watch her videos. And guess what? From the get-go, it's going to sound nutty. It's going to sound totally nutty. But have a leap of faith here. Check it out. It's true.